Have you checked the children? Your little mess
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Jaime Fuego here.
We are here to do another patron request. This one was the poll request recently,
Oh.
and this is for Steven Spielberg's very, very first movie, the highway thriller Duel.
Yeah, directorial debut.
Directorial debut of Spielberg himself. Now, the funny thing about this movie, at least in my history, is I went to ASU. When I went to ASU, there was not a full-fledged film degree. However,
Now there is.
I could definitely take film classes. There just was not a degree. So I got a marketing degree. But one of the movies we watched in film class was Duel. I had not seen this since I was in college. So I have not seen this since probably 2000 or 2001.
We're talking like 20 years.
Almost
then, yeah.
20 years. Yes, I finally sat down and rewatched it, and we're going to give our overall thoughts on Spielberg's very first movie, where a tractor trailer ends up being essentially the shark from Jaws chasing down a guy. And I will say that this movie is unequivocally really boring. It is really slow. Like, having watched so much in between when I watched this in film class and when I watched it again now, this movie is slow, and it doesn't even give you dialogue or story really to chew on.
Yeah.
It's just a dude running from another truck through the entire movie, and it's not even that interesting. And I gotta say, this movie was boring. I respect it for what it was. I respect what it meant to the director, but God bless America, this was boring to me. Fuego, what are your overall thoughts?
Well, so I was going to say, Spielberg actually grew up in Arizona here. He went to Arcadia High School,
yeah.
which is where my lady went as
It
well.
was,
and they
it
talk
was
about him
3
there a
miles
lot.
from where I grew up.
Yeah.
Arcadia High School was 40th Street and Thomas. I grew up at 40th Street and Glendale.
Yeah.
Lincoln, as it is.
Yep, exactly. That's what it turns into, is you're getting into the East Valley here in the Phoenix metro area. But yeah, man, this is one that it's based on a Richard Matheson short story, and that's the key word, short story.
Richard
And so-
Matheson, I Am Legend?
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
And various other awesome things. And so there are times where you have a concept that can be expanded into a feature, and this was an ABC movie of the week in 1971. Maybe it would have flowed a little bit better, dare I say, with commercials, because of the fact that then you would have that ebb and flow and that break, because there are, as we'll get to in story, it's pretty much just like the same beat over and over and over throughout this entire movie. It's well shot, and it's decently acted, but it's that repetition that makes it such a slog. And you can see the sown seeds of potential from just a visionary standpoint, but it really should have stayed a short story. This would have worked better as I don't know if Night Gallery was going on at the time, or like Twilight Zone or whatever. But this
was
would have worked
revisited
better.
via Road Rage, was it not?
Road Rage was like a re-envisioning of this, because that was with like tweakers, being chased by somebody who had been wronged.
But
at
it
the
was
meth lab.
the Joe Hill,
Joe
Stephen
and
King.
Stephen King,
Right.
yeah. Which I think that story's a lot better personally, and that was their homage to
Duel.
To Duel. So yeah, Matheson's Duel, great short story. Spielberg's film, just too long and had no business being a 2-hour film. I mean, 2 hours with commercials, and I think it's around like 90 something.
What was
minutes.
funny to me is that Duel turned out to be the precursor to the much better road horror movie, The Hitcher. Where it was a lot of the same kind of beats, right? Where the main guy goes into a diner and the hitcher's there and he doesn't know who it is or whatever.
Which is one of the most effective scenes
I
in the
loved that
entire
scene.
film,
That
where he's
scene was
looking around,
fantastic.
he's looking
Yeah,
at
he
the
stops.
boots, he's trying to
He
figure out who it
stops
may be.
because he thinks he's escaped. So, we need to talk about story.
So
yeah.
segue into story, you
Segue
have
into
overall
story.
thoughts, poll voters.
So the story is about this man who is driving a long distance for a job interview,
California.
driving to California
Through
pitch something.
California, yeah.
And he's got a little woman back home
And a child.
waiting for him. And as he's going, he runs afoul of this big rig trucker that he pisses off by accident or whatever, just straight up pisses off, and then the big rig trucker starts following and menacing him for the remainder of the entire movie. And at one point, he pulls off into this diner thinking he can escape. He's going to pull off and the trucker's going to keep going. But he pulls off, the trucker keeps going, he thinks he's okay, and then like 5 minutes later, he notices the truck is still parked. It's gone back and it's parked outside now. So the trucker is in the diner. He has no idea who it is. The tension is palpable. Like, there are parts of this movie that are really well done. It is clearly the first Spielberg movie. It really is. But, you know, you have to forgive some stuff and really pay attention to others to really see the talent behind the curtain in this one.
And this is where I point so much to just the script being stretched out to the degree that it was. Like, since I haven't read the Matheson short story, I can't really attest to how many additional scenes of just road rage tension were added as opposed to, but, you know, just speaking on behalf of what I watched, I still think that might be even better than the scenes of where he's being like forced out of the other lane, or where he's trying to cut the person off and then, you know, there's incoming traffic. And, you know, because you recycle so many beats in this, unfortunately, because there's only so many different things you can do with this, which is why that diner scene is so effective, because of that uncertainty and the guessing game and the fact that you don't get just the resolution that you want. And I think that's about halfway through the film. He has ran off the road at that particular time, and I think that's when he goes to the diner, is where he's ran off the road and he crashes through the fence, and he's worried about the state of his car, and so he goes and, you know, calls the wife and whatnot. But the story doesn't really feel like it goes much of anywhere, is really what kind of stinks about it. And so it is a showcase for burgeoning talent, which is why, as opposed to being theatrical, it was an ABC movie of the week once again. So just paper thin on the story, really. It's more so a concept than an actual story in a lot of ways.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree. It's really a short film drawn out to a full-length feature, and it just doesn't float when it starts to get boring. I mean, it could be a lean, mean half-hour movie that would be kick-ass.
An installment of, like, you know, as I said, like Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Night Gallery, you know, Twilight Zone, whatever.
Yeah.
It would have been great as, like,
perfect
22 minutes, you know, you just get the full extent of it.
But even at 80 minutes, it was still overstayed its welcome.
Yeah, and maybe it would have been scarier if it was more condensed in that variety, because you almost overstay your welcome, and it's like if you're being toyed with for that long, maybe you're just wondering, like, when or if it's actually gonna get to that point. So yeah, I mean, the dread diminishes in that regard.
Yeah, and I mean, cinematography wise, it's a precursor to Spielberg. It's not great, it's not bad. It starts off with a Fender level sort of cruise through the desert, and it was actually making my significant other sick as she was watching it, because it was right at the ground level. Luckily, it changed after that. It wasn't that POV the whole time, but she was really worried about it.
Well,
so,
and like lots of close-up
shooting
shots
wise,
of
it
wheels,
was interesting. Yeah, lots of close-up wheels and
you know, the front
grills and bumpers and stuff like that. It can get to you if you're not okay with quick, jarring motion at times, but. You know, ultimately, it was a well-made movie. It was an independent feature, and they did a good job with it. So I think it's worth watching, but I don't think you necessarily need to expect, like, a Spielberg movie when you watch it, necessarily.
Yeah, if you're looking, like, if you're going to watch somebody's first feature, as much of an issue as I have with Spielberg's buddy George Lucas, THX is
THX 1138
so much better of a film than Duel.
Last time I watched that was also in film school. The same class I watched this.
Yeah.
So
surprise, yeah. And there's a scene late in this film with, like, a school bus that is just like it's dumb, and it aggravates me with, like, the school bus that's broke down, and, like, the big rig is, like, pushing the. I don't know. This I have a lot of problems with it, but it's one of those where you're almost like, I mean, it's not the equivalent of watching Spielberg's amateur films in the desert, but it's
up there.
Yeah, it's up there. It's close. So I'm glad that I revisited it, though, and I actually, as I joked with you I found this online, and I think it was in Spanish or Italian or something
I
like
don't think
that.
it mattered.
It did not, because it is so minimalistic in the dialogue. It is primarily just, you know, the ebb and flow of the tension of how much this big rig wants to mess with our protagonist, and yet it just gets old after a while.
So if you're a Spielberg aficionado and you have not seen Duel for whatever reason, definitely check it out. But otherwise, I don't think you need to go extremely out of your way to watch this movie.
It's like a completist kind of thing.
It is. It's one of those things where if you want to say you've seen all of his movies, then you definitely have to check it out. But ultimately, if you want entertaining Spielberg, this is not it. This is a precursor to all of that. It's not to say it's not necessary for his career to achieve those parts later on. It very much is, but that's not what you're going to get with this one.
No.
So thank you very much to the poll winners, right? This was a poll winner. So thank you to those of you that voted in the poll.
Appreciate
for
your patience.
Selecting Duel. We greatly appreciate you guys. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias a Jaime Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.